Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Judson Memorial Church. It is so wonderful to see you. What a cute little August crowd. My name is Micah. My pronouns are he and they, and I am the senior minister here at Judson. But if it is your first time here at Judson and you're looking around, we are a priesthood of all believers. So look at all of these folks sitting around you. These are the pastors of Judson Memorial Church, who you see. I have been away for 3.5 weeks, and I am so happy to be back. But first, I want to give a round of applause to the amazing folks who stood and preached from this pulpit over the last 4 weeks. Please give them a round of applause. Diana DeVay, Abigail Hastings, Dan Shank, and Andrew Moore all gave beautiful testimonies that kept me afloat while I was in Berlin and Locarno. And I'm going to talk a bit about that a little later in the service, so I won't give it all away now. But I'm so happy to see new faces here. I'm so happy to see faces that I missed over the last few weeks. Please, 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 if you would like to say hello after the service, either to me, who will stay in this area and wait to just greet you, and you can also go back to the welcome table back there where we have visitor cards. You will have board member Abigail Hastings ready to tell you all about Judson. We got multiple ways that we can give you radical welcome as you enter this space. And I realize this is the wrong crowd that I should be saying this to because you arrived at 11 or earlier, but we're going to experiment from now moving forward with having announcements at the end of the service. So that means you want to arrive at 11 a.m. because the service is going to start at 11 a.m. If you are the type who have just rolled in about 11:20, thinking that the announcements kind of gave you some breathing room there, no longer. The entire show is going to get off at 11 a.m., and I know somebody's excited over there. So we will not start with announcements this morning, but I do want you to turn to that camera right there and wave hello to the Judson diaspora that's joining us online. We feel you all in this space. I have missed you, and I'm so glad to know that you are there with us. And I'm going to call us to attention here with our land acknowledgement. We gather today on the ancestral land of the Munsee Lenape tribe of the Lenni Lenape people. We acknowledge these people of the Stony Country and decry the unjust taking of their Lenape hoking. We acknowledge the unfulfilled promises of U.S. treaties granting land access and the still unresolved traumas of forced migration. We acknowledge and affirm Indigenous values and cultures while holding space for the myriad authentic and post-colonial Indigenous expressions of faith in life. Now, to remember well and move beyond ceremony to reciprocity, we commit to better understanding our place on this land. We extend honor to those people who still live on and steward the land, and we commit to making meaningful connections between the original people and their ancestral land in order to counteract all harm to original peoples that perpetuates a narrative of erasure. If you would like more information on how we are actually living into that statement, come and find me, and I can connect you to the folks who are part of our Sacred Reckonings curriculum, where we are actually learning how not just to have ceremony, but action accompanying it. And now, we're going to officially go into this service, and I will say, while I was in Berlin and Locarno, I got to witness amazing art, and I could say that I didn't want to come back because I just could have kept ingesting all of that amazing art. But what it reminded me was how much amazing art we have in this space, and it made me even more grateful. So you're gonna see just 2 of those amazing artists offering up art today, and we're gonna start with our prelude, so please give your attention to Naval Cassidy, who will bring us into this space with even more aplomb. Naval.
Hello? I got to make this short. I want to thank Gregg and the AV crew and Micah and everybody else here at Judson for allowing me to present an excerpt from something that I premiered at Electric Eclectics Festival in Canada about 2 weeks ago. Okay, here we go.
Kilo, Delta, Whiskey, Tango, 4, Yankee, Golf. 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 Tango, Kilo, 4, Delta, Yankee, Whiskey, Tango, 4, Yankee, Golf. Tango, Kilo, Delta, Whiskey, Tango, 4, Yankee, Golf. Tango, Kilo, 4, Delta, Yankee, Whiskey, Tango, 4, Yankee, Golf. Tango,
Thank you so much, Naval. And one thing that I love about Naval's art is how thoroughly it disorients me. And that's exactly what I want to happen in this space. It disorients me and reorients me in the way that art does and sends me back out into the world thoroughly queered and different than I was when I came into this space. And another artist who does that in our community is Emily Farthing, whose art is on your bulletin cover. So while I read our call to worship, I want to invite you to look at this bulletin cover. Her photograph is called Angel at the Water's Edge. And the call to worship this morning is a prayer for this cross you carry. And while you hear these words, I hope you can imagine yourself as that angel at the water's edge. That right there, that weight that whisper screams, that heft you fear only you can hear, let it soften you so it has nothing left to hurt. Look down from the hill you've decided you must die on. In the actual end, it makes little difference whether you've chosen the place yourself or been forced up its tricky terrain. Find one face that hasn't hardened. It's there, and it might even be yours. Eradicate all executioner energy from your own exhausted frame. Give in to your prophetic power without making yourself a martyr. Taste water where once only vinegar reigned. That right there is the lightness, filled with brilliant breath, tough enough to deny these nails and bring you back your life. Amen. And now would you please rise in body and or spirit, and I want to hear you raise the roof off this place with "Oh, for 1,000 tongues" to sing.
The first ancient testimony is from the Gospel according to Matthew. Thank you. Chapter 14, verses 22 to 31, Walking on the Water, adapted from the Message translation. As soon as the meal was finished, he insisted that the disciples get in the boat and go on ahead to the other side while he dismissed the people. With the crowd dispersed, he climbed the mountain so he could be by himself and pray. He stayed there alone late into the night. Meanwhile, the boat was far out to sea when the wind came up against them and they were battered by the waves. At about 4 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. They were scared to death. "A ghost," they said, crying out in terror. But Jesus was quick to comfort them. "Courage, it's me. Don't be afraid." Peter, suddenly bold, said, "Jesus, if it's really you, call me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come ahead." Jumping out of the boat, Peter walked on the water to Jesus. But when he looked down at the waves churning beneath his feet, he lost his nerve and started to sink. He cried, "Jesus, save me." Jesus didn't hesitate. He reached down and grabbed his hand. Then he said, "Faint heart, what got into you?" The second ancient testimony is from the Tao Te Ching, a book about the way and the power of the way, by Lao Tzu, adapted by Ursula K. Le Guin. You can't keep standing on tiptoe or walk in leaps and bounds. You can't shine by showing off or get ahead by pushing. Self-satisfied people do no good. Self-promoters never grow up. Such stuff is to the Tao as garbage is to food, or a tumor to the body, hateful. The follower of the way avoids it. The modern testimony is from Betraying Ambition by Diego Aguillo. Nowadays, the term ambition is used indistinctly to name many different things at the same time. As a consequence, ambition has lost its specific meaning. It means everything and nothing. On the one hand, it vaguely refers to any driving force that attempts to accomplish any kind of goal. Ambition is synonymous to challenging oneself in undertaking a difficult enterprise. On the other hand, there's a benevolent understanding of ambition coming from the context of innovation, creative industries, and business. These optimistic theories, supported by the dominant ideology of professional success, present a heroic version of a subjectivity that is in constant process of self-improvement. On the contrary, the etymology of ambition reminds us of the pejorative connotations that ambition was characterized by from the beginning: vainglory, competitiveness, social comparison, eagerness for fame, excessive determination to achieve a position of power, just to name a few. A suspicious mind will immediately try to find the reasons behind such a benevolent understanding of how the word's meaning was once negative. Why is the belief in social construction that ambition implies convenient for dominant ideologies? What are the illusions, hopes, and dreams behind ambition, and why are they necessary to make people move on with their lives? What's the next thing? Standing and singing?
Beautiful reading. Thank you, Kirsten. We will remain seated and just enjoy singing Open My Heart. Take it away, Henco. sound I missed. Would you please open your hearts and pray with me? May I say what I need to say, and may you hear what you need to hear. Amen. So most of you know that I have been away for almost 4 weeks, traipsing around Europe, having my mind and my heart and my spirit blown by the fierce creativity of some of our friends across the pond. And at first, I was trying to pack every single experience that I had over there into one sermon. And then I remembered that the Judson that I know and love really doesn't like to stay in the meeting room until 5 p.m. on a Sunday. So I decided to stretch out my learnings over the next month of sermons. So have no fear. We are just going to bite off one aspect of those adventures today, and you are going to get out of here by noon-ish. And you can look forward to the next few weeks, over which I'll slowly unfurl the fabulous lessons that I've learned. So today I return to you with a question. Why do you do what you do? If you're like me, you probably have multiple answers, each of varying depth. You've got your immediate surface responses, and you've got your deeper, complex reasons. And I know that on the surface, I spent the last few weeks in Berlin, Germany, and Locarno, Switzerland, because as the pastor of a church that finds its sweet spot at the intersections of expansive spirituality and radical justice seeking and unfettered creativity, I need to step outside these walls every now and again and go somewhere to be reminded that we are not the only folks who are seeking curiously the intersections between these three things. And it keeps us from becoming stagnant and self-satisfied with our own ways of doing things. And then there are the deeper reasons, one of which is that I think it's particularly powerful for pastors to be regularly disoriented, to be thrust into environments and situations in which they are not the facilitator, where they are not the leader, not the one responsible for maintaining the container, so that they can return to their congregation freshly humbled by all that they have experienced. And believe me, I have returned to you fully humbled. But we'll get to that in a moment. Why do you do what you do? From the mundane to the magnificent, why do you do it? Do you do it for yourself? To answer that still, small, loving voice within you? Do you do it for others so that you can feel that you belong? Do you do it for some abstract call toward ambition and success that has been fed to you by capitalism and media and the myth of scarcity and competition? Who do you think you have to be? And what do you think you have to do? And from where is that push coming? From outside you or from within you? While I was overseas, the world lost a remarkable artist who threw into question all of my answers to those questions I just asked. Shahuda Sadakat, or as many of us knew her, Sinead O'Connor, was an artistic enigma to many of us. Her voice came into my life when I was 10 years old, when she released her 1990 hit album, oddly titled, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got. What an anti-capitalistic message, my goodness. I remember being baffled even back then by the resolve of this title. Even now, it flies in the face of so much of how society tells us to live and to desire. The words can be read in multiple ways, and it perfectly disorients the listener. Of course, this album also included O'Connor's indelible cover of Prince's classic Nothing Compares to You, accompanied by that striking music video image of her singing directly into the camera, challenging all of us, head shaved, refusing to be fooled into embodying the traditional trappings of the over-feminized, male gaze-honed image of the woman pop star. And then came 1992. Who remembers what happened in 1992? Okay. O'Connor notoriously fucked up her career by speaking out against child sex abuse in the Catholic Church and ripping apart a photograph of the Pope on national television. And my preteen brain didn't know what to do with this person. Someone defiantly deciding who she was and why she did what she did, free of fear of the voices who told us all what kind of acquiescence it actually takes to succeed. And when O'Connor's death was announced this past July, the meditation quotation on your bulletin cover began to circulate again as folks paid tribute to her ferocity, referencing how the media represented her photo-ripping act as a, quote, derailment of her rising career. O'Connor shot back saying, people say, oh, you fucked up your career. But they're talking about the career they had in mind for me. I fucked up the house in Antigua that the record company dudes wanted to buy. I fucked up their career, not mine. It meant I had to make my living playing live, and I am born for live performance. These are the words of a person who knows exactly why she does what she does. A person unattached to the myths of a straight-line trajectory of ambition. And I cannot imagine what kind of self-possession it takes to be so certain of one's calling in the world, but O'Connor stands as a sort of beacon to me, saying, let go of the success-focused, suffocating weight that the world has placed on your shoulders. Simply know why you do what you do and move from there. And knowing O'Connor's disdain for organized Christianity, I have no idea if she would be honored or offended by the connection I'm about to make, but her model kind of reminds me of Jesus, okay? Sinead, Shahuda, if you are offended, we will turn that into honor in just a moment. Kind of reminds me of that Jesus model in today's ancient testimony. Even if you don't consider yourself a scripture expert, you know this idea of walking on water, right? It's entered our collective unconscious in countless ways, and believe me, I am fascinated by the idea of a spectral ghost Jesus effortlessly sashaying across the surface of the sea, but I don't want to focus on Jesus today. I want to focus on Peter. Short, sweet, poor little Peter who nearly drowns in the depths because he tries to walk and at the last minute disappears into his own fears of inadequacy. Now, I don't know what social success looked like to the people of Jesus' time, but I dare say that if they had something like pop stars, Jesus would be one of them, at least for one brief shining moment. And I'm less concerned about the literal possibilities of this walking on water image than I am in wondering what this story meant to the gospel writers who were trying to inspire the early traumatized Jesus follower community to keep moving in the wake of Jesus' execution. What's amazing about this mythological moment is that right when the disciples see Jesus walking on that water, and Peter says, Jesus, if it's really, really you, call me to come to you on the water. Jesus doesn't say something like, silly Peter, you're not Jesus. You can't walk on the water. Look at me. Watch me walk on the water. Watch me and be amazed by the wonder that I am. No, Jesus just says, Okay, come on. You can do it. Let go of the weight of what the world tells you is possible and step out into the impossible. The water is fine. And I am most activated by the idea that Jesus actually has no idea whether or not Peter will actually be able to do it. It's quite possible that Peter's experiment will be a huge disaster, and he'll immediately sink into the water. But here's the thing, and it's a truth that never seems to get pointed out. Is it really such a disaster if Peter can't walk on the water? Because if he sinks into the water, he can still swim. He can still float. He can still move with the water's flow, much like the flow lifted up by Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching. What's the danger of sinking into the flow and moving with the flow? Why are we obsessed with walking on the water? If Peter will let go of the weight of what he's convinced himself he needs to do to succeed here, the water's flow will hold him and show him a new way to swim. And it would be nice to walk on water. But even walking on water, according to Jesus, requires us to shrug off the ideas of success with which the world tries to weigh us down and find new ways to go with the flow. And like O'Connor, Jesus is saying, let go of the success-focused, suffocating weight that the world has placed on your shoulders. Simply know who you are and why you do what you do and move. And then when Peter sinks, Jesus reaches out a hand, just like good community. And all is well, and the water's fine. And one of the brilliant thinkers I met in Berlin is quoted on your bulletin cover right below Sinead O'Connor. And in today's Modern Testimony, he's also quoted, and Diego Aguyo has written many books on movement and collective creativity, and his book, Betraying Ambition, is an epic takedown of the insidious ways that the lies of ambition and success weigh us down, convincing us to compete when it would be so much more life-giving to collaborate. The entire thesis of his book can be encapsulated in those final words of Jesus in our ancient testimony. Faint heart, what got into you? Well, we know what got into us. Aguyo suggests that it is far more nourishing for us to ask ourselves why we do the things we do and deeply, collectively seek the answers than it is to lose ourselves in the lofty ideas of success and ambition that the world tries to feed us. That's what got into us and made us faint hearts. We are a bunch of faint hearts who know what got into us, the slithery capitalistic myths of scarcity and competition. So what's the antidote to these sink or swim lies? When you can't walk on the water, sink and swim. At the start of this sermon, I promised that I'd tell you a story of my own humbling, and I don't want to leave you disappointed. So here's my little sink and swim confession. So there is a gorgeous sanctuary in Berlin in the hip neighborhood of Neukölln. It's called Startbahn. And one Sunday a month at 1 p.m., Startbahn is home to a secular sacred gathering called the Church of Interbeing. And this group's monthly meeting just happened to fall during the time that I was visiting Berlin. And as a pastor who rarely gets to experience services that I am not also called to facilitate, I thought it would be a great opportunity to learn what the cool kids are up to. And it started off fine enough. And I entered this aesthetically beautiful space. I took off my shoes, and I sat with around 25 other folks. I was the oldest one there. They all seemed to know what they were doing. That's when my nerves kicked in. As the service continued and I became more and more disoriented by the fact that there was no bulletin for me to follow, and no one else who seemed as brand new as I was, I became determined to succeed at this service. My ambition grew. I knew I was a faith leader, and I know how to do church. So I'm going to succeed during this service. I became convinced that I needed to at least appear that I knew what I was doing. I wanted to walk on water, and I wanted to help these folks to know that I am a perfectly trained pastoral professional who knows exactly how to hold my own in a worship service and who holds spaces like this all the time and quite well. Thank you very much. But the service just got more and more disorienting. And I realized that I was beginning to look exactly how I felt, like I had no idea what I was doing. And the storm exploded when the group facilitator said those dreaded words that so many of us fear, and now we're going to break up into small groups. I felt my confidence shrink and sink, and she said, so look around and find 2 other people so that you can form a group of 3. And I kid you not, those groups of 3 formed with lightning speed. And within a few seconds, I was the only single person standing alone in the middle of this gorgeous space, drowning amongst giddy groups of 3. I was devastated. I was found out. And I was taken right back to middle school gym class. I know there are some people who know this. Middle school gym class, always the last one picked for any kind of team sport, and I wanted to run from the room and find another place where I could start over and convince someone else that I know the secrets to success. But then just like Jesus, just like Sinead O'Connor, just like Lao Tzu, just like Diego Aguyo, that sweet facilitator looked at me quizzically and said, "Don't you want to jump in?" And I exasperatedly threw my hands around to show her the obvious conundrum. And I said, everyone's in groups of 3, and I'm left over. I was hating every second of it. I felt like I was drowning, and she smiled and said, why don't you form a group of 4? Why didn't I form a group of 4? Because you told me that we had to form a group of 3. Because the world told me that there is only one path to success. Because I feel the weight of ambition weighing me down every moment of every day, and I want to do it right. And she added, there's no way to do anything right around here. And the storm clouds parted. And I decided to stop trying to walk on water like a miracle worker. And I sank into the flow, and I swam over to a group of 3 who gladly became a group of 4, and the water was absolutely fine. Why do you do what you do? From the mundane to the magnificent, why do you do it? Do you do it for yourself? In order to answer that still, small, loving voice within you? Do you do it for others in order to feel like you belong? Do you do it for some abstract call toward ambition and success that has been fed to you by capitalism and media and the myth of scarcity and competition? Who do you think you have to be? And what do you think you have to do? And from where is that push coming? From outside you? Or from within you? The art of living is a matter of learning as we go and moving without a pre-established pattern of what the way should be. What's the point of drowning in what we haven't got? Why compete when we can collaborate? You have all you need. We have all we need. Sink and swim. I'm going to invite those who are going to collect this morning's offering to start to pass the baskets around now. See, there's no right way to do anything. They're coming around during the sermon.
If you've got a financial gift to give, you can either put it in that basket or you'll find ways to give online listed in your bulletin. There are so many ways to give, but there's a reason why I want those baskets to start now, because we don't want the world to convince us that there's only one way. Sink and swim, and we will find that way together. And to remind us of what we've got here, I want to welcome Judson arts artist Geo Blake to sing us some wisdom from the Gospel of Sinead O'Connor. And as you'll hear in O'Connor's words, you must not try to be too pure. You must fly closer to the sea. Sinking shows us new ways to swim. Gio.
I'm walking through the desert, and I am not frightened, although it's hard. I have all that I requested, and I do not want what I have been God. I have learned this from my mother. See how happy she's made me. I will take this road much further, though I know not where it takes me. I have water for my journey. I have bread and I have wine. No longer will I be hungry, for the bread of life is mine. I saw a navy bluebird flying way above the sea. I walked on and I learned later that this navy bluebird was me. I returned a paler bluebird, and eyes they gave me. You must not try to be too pure. You must fly closer to the sea. So I'm walking through the desert, and I am not frightened, although it's hard. I have all that I requested, and I do not want what I haven't got.
Thank you so much, Gio. Thank you so much, Sinead O'Connor. Would you please rise in body and or spirit? This service is ending, but our service in the world continues. Don't just try to walk on the water. Sink and swim. The water's fine. Let's raise the roof off this place with Raoul Carmine's classic. Amen. Please be seated. I got to catch my breath after that one. Thank you for the tag at the end. It gave me a second to... Wonderful. Thank you. How about a round of applause for Henco? All right. Thank you. Now is the moment where we bid adieu to the folks who are out there in the Zoom diaspora. Bye, folks. Give them a wave. It's so wonderful to have you here. You are in good hands with Reverend Emily Jean Gilbert. We send love your way. And now is the moment where we open up this pulpit for folks who would like to share announcements, celebrations, or concerns.